What if I told you there might be a hidden source code that connects the entire universe? That's what we're digging into today. We're looking at a pretty radical idea that claims to unify the deepest mysteries in physics with the most profound puzzles in pure mathematics. So, yeah, let's get right into it.
So, this brings us to the big question. You've got three absolutely enormous concepts that on the surface have nothing to do with each other. First, you have quantum gravity, right? The hunt for a single theory of everything. Then you have the completely abstract world of prime numbers. And finally, the very nature of time itself. How on earth could these possibly be related?
To even start to get our heads around this, we really need to meet the three main characters in this story. And trust me, each one comes from a totally different world of science and thought.
Okay, first up, we have something called shadow symmetry. Now, don't worry about the jargon here. It comes from a brand new theory of quantum gravity. Just think of it like this. In this theory, every physical thing has a kind of shadow version of itself. And shadow symmetry is just the math rule that connects a thing to its shadow. For a long time, scientists knew this rule existed, but they had no clue what it actually meant in the real world. It was just a weird mathematical quirk.
Our second character is, well, it's the white whale of mathematics, the Riemann hypothesis. This thing is a 160-year-old puzzle, and it's all about a hidden pattern in the prime numbers. It basically predicts that all the really important, non-trivial information about primes is perfectly, beautifully organized along a single straight line. It's this wild claim of perfect order hiding inside the chaos of primes.
And our last character is time reversal. You've probably heard of this one. It's a core principle of physics. It basically says that the laws of nature don't care if you run the clock forwards or backwards. If you film two particles colliding and play the movie in reverse, it still looks totally fine according to the laws of physics.
And this, right here, just lays out the puzzle perfectly. I mean, look at this. You've got a super niche property from some cutting-edge quantum gravity theory, a 160-year-old guess about prime numbers, and a fundamental law of physics. They seem like they live in completely different universes. They use different math. They describe totally different things.
But then something clicked. And it wasn't from some hugely complex new calculation or experiment. It was just from seeing a pattern that was, incredibly, hiding in plain sight this whole time. And this one simple recognition is the key that starts to unlock everything.
Now get this. The claim isn't the shadow symmetry is like time reversal. It's not a metaphor. The argument is that they are one and the same thing, identical. That weird mathematical rule that physicists were using in their new theory of gravity was, detail for detail, the exact same mathematical operation as physically reversing the flow of time.
So if that's true, if these two things are literally identical, we suddenly have a bridge, a key. It's like we found a Rosetta Stone that lets us translate between the language of quantum gravity and the language of pure math, specifically, the world of the Riemann hypothesis.
And here it is. This is the translation key. It's almost ridiculously simple. Delta equals 2 times s. That's it. Now, delta is just a number that measures a property of particles in the physics theory. And s is the variable that tells you where you are on that special map in the world of prime numbers. This tiny formula. This is the bridge.
All right, so let's see how this actually works. On the left, in the world of physics, there's a fundamental rule that basically says for the math to make sense, the real part of this delta value has to equal 1. That's the critical line for quantum gravity. Then over on the right, in the world of math, you have the famous critical line from the Riemann hypothesis, where the real part of s is supposed to be 1/2. See? They look similar, but the numbers are different, 1 versus 1/2. But watch what happens when we use our little Rosetta Stone. Delta equals 2s. You take the math equation where the real part of s is 1/2. You multiply both sides by 2. So now the real part of 2s equals 1, and since our Rosetta Stone tells us that delta is the same thing as 2s, that means the real part of delta equals 1. Boom! The two critical lines map perfectly onto each other. They're not just similar, they are the same line, the exact same structure, just described in two different languages.
Okay, so once you build that bridge and realize these two things are the same, the implications are just staggering. It's not just one little connection, it's a cascade. A single discovery that makes a whole bunch of other huge, long-standing problems suddenly start to fall into place.
And this is that cascade. I mean, the claims here are enormous. This one connection is said to solve the Riemann hypothesis, which we've talked about, but it also claims to solve two other Millennium Prize problems. These are some of the hardest, most famous unsolved problems in all of science.
On top of that, this single framework also claims to derive Einstein's equations from scratch, explain why fundamental particles come in 3 generations, and even describe dark matter without any tweaking. All of it flows from that one initial connection.
So all of this forces us to ask a much deeper, kind of philosophical question. We've just seen a proposed bridge between the physical structure of the cosmos and the abstract structure of pure numbers. What does that actually mean about the reality we live in?
And this really gets to the heart of it. The idea is that maybe we aren't just using math as a convenient tool to describe the universe. Maybe we're actually discovering that the universe is, at its very core, built from mathematical structure. The code isn't just a description of reality. The code is the reality.
And that's the thought I want to leave you with. If something as real and physical as gravity shares the exact same deep structure as something as abstract as prime numbers, well, that just completely changes how we should look at the universe. It suggests that reality is way more unified and interconnected than we ever dreamed, and that maybe the biggest secrets aren't waiting for us in giant machines, but are just sitting there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to finally recognize the pattern.